Hi, my name is Herbert Elwood Gilliland III, and I just wanted to talk about a video that I posted in 2007. This is the video I Invented YouTube. It seems like the types of people who come to my channel vary, but the majority of them arrived to this video by way of iJustine, who is from my hometown, and in fact knew one of my friends before she got famous. He worked for G4 Network. I don't know if he's really my friend, but we went to high school together and we knew who each other was, and we tried to collaborate a couple times after he got back, but they weren't. We couldn't work together. We're real busy. So to give you some context to why this video is here, and then to talk about the comments and my experiences and stuff. So this video was me trying to come out about the truth about YouTube's founding, and I had never made a video for YouTube before. It had been years since I had made any videos whatsoever that weren't computer generated. A little about myself. I went to Carnegie Mellon University. I studied a little-known art form called interaction design, which was a self-defined major at Carnegie Mellon, and was a correction. At the time, everyone was teaching interactive design, but interactive design actually connotates someone creating something that is interactive while designing. It just was an improper use of the English language, and so I corrected my professors by changing the name. Now interaction design is taught at Carnegie Mellon and many other places, and there's the IXD and a bunch of other organizations that cropped up after that. Some of the pioneers of this, I would consider myself a pioneer of it, but some of the people who had come before were Jeff Raskin, who supposedly invented the double click on the Mac, and also there's actually credited to a woman who worked in Italy or something, or studied in Italy or something. I can't recall it right now. I'd have to look it up. Let's see what the Wikipedia says. Not that that's a great source. No, someone else. Other people had done this. It's a German discipline. By the time I was graduating, which was about 7 or 8 years after I had created the degree, it was impossible for me to stand out because of it, because by the time I was graduating it was already being taught in the university, so it wasn't as big of a deal as it was in 1999. Let's just look at the comments here. Or let's get to the video first, and then I'll get to the comments. So this link leads you to my breaking down of the original video evidence of Chad and Steve going around and talking to people in public, mainly Chad, because I didn't really know Steve Chen that well. We had talked one time. I'd never spoken to Jawed, but I did talk to Chad extensively on the phone when I disclosed the YouTube invention idea to him. They made agreements with me on the phone, but never followed up on anything in email to hide the fact that they had not come up with it, and then went around and told people that they had invented it. Part of that was my coaxing. I basically said I wanted to be a silent partner, but they made me so silent that in fact I was completely removed from the entire, I never made any money. I went to federal court over it. I would like to let you know that there are very few rights for people who aren't rich in this country, and it was very difficult to prove for some extraneous external factors which damaged information and hid and obscured information, including Google doing some things and YouTube also doing some things which violated my privacy and the privacy of other people for short periods of time during the case, which ultimately didn't matter because, well, it did matter, but we can't figure out why or how the judge made his decision. You don't get that information. You're not allowed to know. He doesn't disclose, if he doesn't disclose it, obviously. But to this day, and today is Tuesday, January 18th, 2011, I continue to attest that I am the inventor of this brand. I thought up the logo. Let's take a look real quick. Here's the YouTube logo. It's a classic television set with the word tube written in it, and then U. The colors are anarchist colors. I was an anarchist and a Discordian. Discordianism is the worshipping of the Roman goddess Eris. It was sort of a joke religion invented in the 1960s by a Vietnam vet who was on an acid trip. So this was part of the early internet lore. There was Discordianism and complete copies of the Principia Discordia online early on. And then later and the Church of the Subgenius, that's sort of like time period when the internet was very young and all that was on there was obscure things written by people in universities and copied illegally, possibly pasted there since the 60s when the system had originally been created. So I got involved in that when I was like 14 because I had already sworn off Christianity and I didn't believe in God. And it's interesting because Chad was in the TSA, the Technology Students Association, and so was I. I have several TSA trophies for various things. These trophies were, or the thing about the TSA was I stayed in it during high school, but at the very end of high school, I read through the TSA mantra, and if you go to, this is my channel on YouTube, if you go to the Technology Students Association, here it is, and you click on their, what is TSA, you click on their motto and creed. This is the TSA motto and creed, and here it says, I believe that technology holds an important place in my life. I agreed with that. I believe there's a need for development of good attitudes concerning work, tools, materials, and experimentation. This actually really made a big impact on me. And then, guided by my teachers, I will strive to do my best. Okay, well, yeah. I'm all about ethics, so, you know, I haven't always been about ethics, but in high school I was very ethical, and I was into truth-telling. And in fact, reading Orson Scott Card's books, Speaker for the Dead, I really identified with that, but I had already found sort of a new religion to follow, and that was Discordianism, because I believed it was that Christianity was essentially a lie, a myth, and so was Discordianism. But if you're going to be forced to believe a lie or myth and tell people that you believe it, it was easier to say I'm Discordian rather than people saw it as like an obscure religion or an exotic thing, rather than if you said I don't believe in God, which people would usually get offended by. So I did that in high school. Anyway, I will accept the responsibilities that are mine. Right. So I've actually gone beyond this, and I actually accept responsibility for the world. And I don't actually think that this is a good part of their motto. I thought it was kind of weak there, but one of the things that I wanted to point out is it says, I will accept the theories that are supported by proper evidence. And it says I will explore on my own for safer, more effective methods of working and living. I've definitely lived that. But here's where it says something that I don't agree with. And it says, I will make it my goal to do better each day. Okay, great. And then it starts to sound kind of like something you would say like in a prayer in like a Protestant church. I will make it my goal to do better each day, the task before me, and to be steadfast in my belief in my God and my fellow Americans. I don't care. And that's why I left the TSA, because you know, to follow this motto and creed, it says I will strive to do my best, blah 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 blah. It says I will accept theories that are supported by proper evidence. Well, if I'm accepting theories only the ones by proper evidence, which is the scientific method, then I'm not going to accept that God exists, and I'm not going to be steadfast in a belief of something that has no evidence. You know, you can show me every religious text in the world, you can tell me every story about seeing a light before you die, but that doesn't prove to me that there's a God, nor does looking at a bird fly or anything like that. That's not, you know, I don't know, that doesn't prove that there's a God. It just proves that the universe has a side effect, which is life. I mean, it's not, or maybe not a side effect, but, you know, that life at any given point is a side effect of evolution, I guess. So my point is that I couldn't accept this creed because in one point it's telling me something to do proper, and then it's telling me to break that. And I think that this sort of hypocrisy is definitely something that Chad embodies as well, and I just wanted to point that out as I go through this video. So in the video, I'm wearing sunglasses because I felt a little shy and awkward about the entire thing. I didn't know if I should do this part, put this video up there, but it actually did help to put the video on YouTube. I think it helped me get a a person to represent me in a court of law. During this, I do mention that I was a former student of Randy Pausch, and he was actually a colleague of mine for several years, back in 1998 through, or 1999-ish, through 2003 or 4, and we continued to talk up until his death in 2009. I did invent the concept of YouTube while going to work. I was on my way to work, and I thought, wow, we could take this thing that I was working on called the synthetic interview and switch it around so that anybody could use it, and then it would be called YouTube. And I thought YouTube was a great name for it. I had already come up with a name a year prior, but I hadn't fully realized what YouTube would be until about 1998 or 1999. And I continue to add things, so it was an evolving thing. It started in the very beginning as being just a logo idea and like a joke kind of like computer thing, but it wasn't possible at the time. Video wasn't very good. I mean, it was possible, but it didn't seem like a good idea. Not a lot of people had video cameras. They had like VHS cameras. They didn't have DV, and that was a big move that was going on in the late 90s towards DV. So anyway, I go through this thing and I say a couple of things that might seem a little odd, and I'll get to that in the criticisms and the comments. But essentially, I was trying not to say too much because I knew that it would affect my case no matter what I said, but that I needed to get this information out there. And so in it I say some things that aren't exactly true. And it's not that they're lies, they're just obscuring a little bit of what actually transpired. There's a point where I guess they were just misconstrued later, and I'm saying that now, but it's like I'll say something and then people read it as something it's not, and I guess that's what really happened. So if you read some of these quotations, like I'm commenting on what I'm saying at the time by making it appear like I'm saying something else, and maybe that confused people, I don't really know, but I was trying to get a lot of information out there because it was like an hour-long conversation to transfer this idea of YouTube to Chad Hurley.
Apparently, human beings are always interested in recording themselves in a vain and superficial manner.
Okay, I said always there, which is way too much. I mean, people don't always record themselves for vanity, but there's definitely a vanity in humanity, and we are humans, and I am a human, and I am just as vain as the next person. It's sort of a prison that we're in. We are these things, and the truth is that was just evidence for YouTube becoming a big deal. I thought that everybody would use it because everybody had video cameras in the 80s. They just, what to do with them. And then video cassettes, which had been, so originally there was like 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter home movies, and later these home videos became VHS, and VHS tapes only lasted 10 years. So I thought YouTube would be a great way to keep video, now we didn't have to do that anymore, and DVDs were a temporary thing. I didn't really see those lasting much longer, and the reason why I didn't is because a good friend of mine in high school, his name is George Economo. He's not a good friend of mine anymore, but he was in high school, and I met him in 4th grade, although he doesn't seem to remember that. But it's interesting how when people get rich, they start to forget things, and there's many studies on how people who receive lots of money or special treatment don't have some of the humanitarian aspects to them anymore. They see things as a number, or they treat people like they're a commodity. And I'm not about any of that. I don't like that. And I'm sorry that YouTube has to resort to making money off people pseudo-legally, but I mean, the bottom line is that they have to pay to keep the power on there. But they're making a lot more than it takes to run the bare minimum. Had I been the person who had to still retain power over my invention, I probably wouldn't have approached it in the same way, and And I think that it's too bad that I couldn't find just the small seed that I needed to start the company. Um, it's a complex task starting a company because you're making promises and you're trying to deliver on something that you probably can't afford in the beginning. And with YouTube, I couldn't afford anything. I was afraid. I should have maybe protected the logo a little bit more, but I don't think the logo alone did it. I really think that there was a combination of things. The logo was important. The message that it conveys was very unique, and I think it was succinct, and that people see the logo and they instantly know what it's about, which is very descriptive. And many of my logos are like that. But I think in addition to that, and some of the other aspects of the logo and how it went viral, and the fact that it's only 7 characters, which it's easy to remember 7 things that fits into the memory constraints of most people, 7 to 10 things. So YouTube, it's easy to spell, easy to remember. It used to say broadcast itself. Doesn't really matter that that's not there anymore. But in the beginning, that was important to sort of transition people away from other forms and things like that. But YouTube, had I retained it, I probably would have done other things that were a little different. If you remember earlier on, YouTube had prominently, you could select your role in YouTube, and then you would perform that role. Like this channel was a comedy channel because you were a comedian, or you were a director, or you. And I think that actually helped. But according to Sergey Brin during a conversation in 2007, he said that they subdued that. People didn't like it. It was like categorizing people. And I really didn't understand why he said that. But you have to keep in mind that the people who run Google, they are not big players of video games. And in fact, they are a little jealous of the video games industry. And they don't like the video games industry because they don't think it matters. They don't, I don't know why it is. They're like the no games people. And there is this like band of, in the generations, there's a band of people who just do not like video games. And in a lot of old software, you'll see, or logs of people logging into Linux, you'll see messages: no game playing, no games here, don't play games. And that was part of the bullying against the games industry. It continues to this day when they say like, oh, violent video games are the reasons that people kill people. Well, people like committed horrible crimes before video games came around. It just seems to be something easy to blame. And I think the truth is that you've probably played a video game, but I don't think you've met a killer on the average. And so it's hard to identify with the killer and understand the mind of a killer, but it's easy to say, oh, look, there's a violent video game. I've played that. It looks violent. Sometimes it makes me feel weird, etc.